So today is Keto Nutrition Guide. So I'm going to go through number one is why do keto and what is the use case of it. I'll start you with a quick story of myself. I followed a keto nutrition focused nutrition around 5 years ago, and I found that I wasn't following it to get into ketosis specifically, but I was following it for a gut issue or autoimmune issue, and I was wanting to learn a little bit more about it. And I went down the more carnivore style food, so I pretty much just ate meat for quite a number of months, for over a year. I actually felt fantastic going from, the nutrition that I was eating, which wasn't bad specifically, but then when I went from that, I actually felt very good, mental clarity. I could name a million things I felt great with. In the shorter term, but as I, stretched that out over a longer period of time, and when I actually eventually introduced carbs back into my diet, I've a lot better results in terms of performance. So something, to take away just before we start is that long term is something I wouldn't recommend going into ketosis, but short term it can be useful. But the thing is, I want to differentiate here is there's a difference between ketosis, going into ketosis and like following keto diet, and animal-based diet. I want you to think about is if you are following an animal-based diet, you're thinking about what you're eating. The actual produce that you're eating is good. It's meat, fruit, eggs, fish, example, right? You're having all your protein, fats, and carbs at good quality sources. If you're having keto, you can go down the line of not having much carbs, but still eating really poor processed foods. And that is a big problem. So a lot of people go into keto and they'll say, is keto good? And actually, no, if you don't follow the right right ingredients that you're eating, and that is a really big thing you need to understand. So that would be the guide there. So number one would be I potentially would focus on having animal based nutrition, so your meat, fruit, vegetables, and eggs, fish, etc., as opposed to trying to calculate how much carbs you're having, because that, I think, in the long term, when you do that, you end up even eating the wrong foods and feel worse. Something I did pick up from being in ketosis, as I said, I had a clean nutrition. I didn't really eat anything. I was eating, literally meat and high quality meat, so I felt pretty good. But in the long term, I noticed when I did introduce the carbs back in, I felt pretty much better, and I realized that maybe I was a bit lower in, and I don't think it's sustainable. From my research, looking at other people who have run through it, long term, it isn't really good in the body. And my kind of thesis of being in ketosis is probably through the years of people going through cycles of weather. So if you're in a place where maybe you can't harvest fruit because of the year and maybe weather, where it would be your carbohydrates, for example, you're probably going to be maybe a month or two in ketosis because your carbohydrate levels are going to be lower, and you're going to be feeding off things like your protein and your fats. So I think it can be useful. Most likely, this is my my guess to it, my educated guess, is that they would have went through, people with thousands of years ago would have went through cycles of high carbohydrates, low carbohydrates over a season. And then, so that's my thought process there. In terms of, and they would be eating the right produce. In terms of the setup, number one would be, another one would be the use case. What could you use it for? If you've got an inflammatory issue, or you have a gut issue, or you're struggling with something, try look at getting yourself into an animal-based nutrition, as I explained. This is something that will clear your gut. It will actually heal your gut biome, and is really, really helpful. I have helped thousands of people with this before in terms of fixing their gut, and I've done it through eating an animal-based nutrition. And there's a lot of moving parts to it psychologically that you need to learn. So it's something that if you do want more help with, comment on this video, and I can guide you better. Number two would be the setup. What protein can you eat? As I said, any meat, any fruit, any meat, any fish, eggs, but again, go for the higher quality stuff. Make sure when you're eating eggs, you're eating the whole egg. You're not just eating egg whites. You're not getting packs of egg whites where you can pour egg whites in. I've seen those in supermarkets. They're not good. Follow the better quality stuff. What should you know before starting? Again, if you are going to go in a ketosis, know that it's a short-term thing, and you are going to try and introduce higher carbs back in. And when you do introduce carbs back in, go for the things such as fruit and honey. and maybe on occasion a little bit of grains, but keep those lower because it's just much, much more healthy. You're going to get far more nutrients from fruit, etc., than you are going to get from rice because there's no nutrients in rice, right? So that's really important. Long-term sustainability, again, when you go for the animal-based nutrition that I mentioned, that's going to be far better than sticking in ketosis, because when you're in a keto nutrition, you'll find yourself, what I found myself was actually over the long term, after 4 or 5 months, I did, now looking in hindsight, I was lower in energy throughout the kind of latter months of what I was doing. So that, I would say, would be unsustainable. And there's not really much point in doing things when you are going on, let's say, a fat loss journey that are unsustainable, because what happens in the end of a fat loss journey, when you change back from being ketosis, you rebound and then you end up doing the opposite. And that's not learning nutrition. You are literally on a diet. And that's something I do not teach. I do not like people being on a diet, because what is the point if you can't sustain it over the next 6, 12, 15 years? You can only be lean for like 6, 12 months, and then you slowly go back to your old ways because you've learned unsustainable nutrition patterns. So I hope that's helpful, and it's a good quick summary. If you want any more information on anything, please comment on below this video and I'll answer the question for you. Or if you want a specific video made, comment below this video and I will make that video for you on the question that you have. So thanks for watching.